Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It all began quietly, with a sealed envelope and a trembling hand. The conference room at Newman Enterprises had seen countless corporate battles, shareholder wars, and ruthless boardroom takeovers, but never anything like this. On this particular morning, Victoria Newman sat alone at the head of the long mahogany table, sunlight streaming through the tall glass windows, casting an almost heavenly glow around her. The letter, written in Cole Howard's familiar handwriting, had been delivered that morning by an attorney from his estate. The moment she saw the signature on the envelope, her breath caught in her throat. Cole's handwriting, smooth, precise, filled with emotion, brought back a flood of memories she had tried to suppress. But nothing could prepare her for what she was about to read. Her heart pounded as she unfolded the pages, each word slicing deeper into her emotions. At first, the tone of the will was calm and expected, Cole expressing his gratitude, his regrets, his hope that those he loved would find peace. But then, the language shifted. To my dearest Victoria, the letter began, there is something I must tell you, something I never had the courage to say while I was alive. What I am about to reveal may change everything you think you know about our daughter, about Claire, and about the life we thought we lost. Victoria blinked, rereading the line several times. Our daughter. For years, she believed her daughter was gone. The loss had hollowed her, leaving an ache that had never healed. But Claire Grace, the young woman she had recently come to know, the one who had re-entered her life under such bizarre and twisted circumstances, had always seemed like more than just a stranger. There was something familiar about her eyes, her gestures, the way she held her emotions so tightly, as if afraid they might break her. And now, as she read Cole's words, everything she'd suppressed began to surface. Victoria, Cole's letter continued, when Claire appeared in your life again, I knew the truth would eventually come out. I knew she would lead you to questions only I could answer. I couldn't let you live in the dark any longer. The truth is, Claire is not who she was told she was. She is your biological daughter, the child we thought we lost so many years ago. The letter fell from Victoria's trembling hands, fluttering to the floor like a wounded bird. For a moment, the room tilted. She could feel her pulse hammering in her ears, the sound louder than her own thoughts. Claire, her daughter? The same young woman who had been manipulated, brainwashed, and twisted by Jordan? The same woman who had stood before her with tears in her eyes, begging for forgiveness for crimes she didn't fully understand? The realization hit Victoria like a freight train. A strangled cry escaped her lips, and the edges of her vision began to darken. Before she could call out for help, her body gave way, collapsing onto the polished floor. Moments later, Nate rushed in, having heard the commotion from the hallway. Victoria, he shouted, kneeling beside her. Papers were scattered everywhere, Cole's letter, legal documents, a sealed DNA confirmation. As Nate lifted her head, he noticed the name Claire Grace Newman Howard printed clearly at the top of the final page. His eyes widened as he began piecing together the fragments of the truth. This wasn't just about inheritance. It was about identity, legacy, and a secret that had been buried for decades. When Victoria regained consciousness, she found herself lying on the couch in her office, with Nate hovering beside her and a cup of water waiting on the table. What happened? She murmured, her voice faint. You fainted, Nate said softly. You were reading something from Cole's estate. His tone was cautious, as if he already knew the answer but wanted her to confirm it. Do you remember what it said? Tears welled in her eyes. Claire. Claire is my daughter, she whispered, her voice breaking. Nate looked at her in disbelief, then at the documents on the floor. He picked up the pages and glanced through them carefully. Victoria, this is real, he said quietly. Cole signed it, and it's notarized. He left DNA proof attached. He's saying Claire is the child you thought you lost, the baby who was taken from you. Victoria's hand shook as she reached for the papers. Her mind was spinning, replaying the haunting moments of the past, her pregnancy with Cole, the heartbreak, the tragedy that followed, and the years she spent believing their baby hadn't survived. But now, everything was crashing together in her memory, the look in Claire's eyes, the moments of hesitation when she spoke about her childhood, the uncanny way she seemed connected to Victoria even before either of them could explain why. At that same moment, across town, Claire sat in the Abbott mansion, staring out the window with an uneasy feeling she couldn't shake. Something was pulling at her, an invisible thread tugging at her heart. She didn't know that her entire life was about to be rewritten in the blink of an eye. She thought she had finally escaped her past, that she could rebuild her life after Jordan's manipulations and the trauma of being used as a pawn in someone else's vendetta. But the truth was on its way to her, barreling forward with the force of destiny itself. Back at Newman Enterprises, Victoria could barely breathe. She clutched the letter, rereading Cole's words over and over, trying to make sense of the impossible. He explained how, after their child was presumed dead, there had been whispers and doubts he never could prove. He had spent years searching quietly, never telling Victoria for fear of reopening her wounds. Eventually, through a tangled web of clues and records, he discovered that the child had survived, but had been taken and raised under another identity, manipulated into a life of deception. Claire Grace was never a random victim of Jordan's cruelty, Cole's words revealed. She was the target, because of who she truly was, because she is our daughter. I wanted to tell you, but by the time I gathered the proof, my health was failing. I'm sorry I didn't say it sooner. Please, Victoria, love her. Forgive her. She's been through hell, and she deserves the truth. Victoria broke down completely. Years of buried pain came flooding out. The grief she thought she'd buried along with her child transformed into a mix of joy, confusion, and heartbreak. She pressed the letter to her chest, whispering, "You're mine, you've always been mine." Nate sat silently, giving her space to process the emotional tidal wave crashing over her. Word spread quickly through the Newman family. Nick was the first to arrive, bursting into her office with alarm on his face. "Vic, are you okay? I heard you collapsed." When he saw the papers in her hand and the tears streaking down her face, his expression softened but turned grim as he read the headline of the will. "Oh my God," he muttered. "You mean Claire Grace, is your daughter?" Victoria nodded weakly. Cole knew, all this time. And now, it's too late to ask him how. Too late to thank him. He left me with this truth, and it's breaking me, Nick. Nick ran a hand through his hair. "This changes everything," he said under his breath. "Victor, Nikki, everyone needs to know. Claire isn't just some stranger anymore. She's one of us." When Victor Newman arrived at the office later that afternoon, the entire energy in the building shifted. His commanding presence filled the room as always, but this time there was something different in his eyes, a mixture of shock and emotion. "Is it true?" he asked softly, his usually booming voice subdued. "Claire, she's your daughter?" Victoria handed him the letter. Victor read it silently, his face hardening with every line until he finally exhaled deeply. "I always suspected there was something about that girl," he said finally. "The way she carried herself, the strength, the fire. She's a Newman through and through." Then, after a pause, his voice softened. "Cole must have carried this burden for years. I wish he had come to me. We could have protected her from all of this." As night fell, Victoria sat alone again in her office, staring at a photograph of herself and Cole from years ago. The bittersweet ache in her chest was unbearable. She thought of all the missed birthdays, the lost years, the countless nights she'd cried for a child she believed was gone forever. And now that child was alive, and had been right in front of her the entire time. But as much as this revelation brought relief, it also brought pain. How would Claire react when she learned the truth? Would she believe it? Could she accept that the woman she once resented, the woman she'd feared and fought against, was actually her mother? Victoria made a decision. She would tell Claire everything, face to face. She would show her the letter, the DNA results, and the proof Cole had left behind. She would make her understand that none of what happened was her fault. That she had been loved, even when she didn't know it. When she finally drove to the Abbott mansion later that night, she found Claire in the garden, wrapped in a blanket, lost in thought. The air between them was heavy, fragile, and uncertain. "Claire," Victoria said softly, her voice trembling. Claire looked up, sensing something monumental in her tone. "There's something you need to know. Something about who you are, and who I am to you." Claire frowned. "What do you mean?" Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "Cole left me a letter. He told me the truth about you." She took a deep breath, her voice breaking. "You're my daughter, Claire. You've been my daughter all along." For a long moment, silence enveloped them. Claire's face went pale. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came out. The world seemed to stop moving around them, the wind, the stars, everything frozen in time. "No," Claire whispered finally, her voice shaking. "That can't be true." Victoria stepped closer, her tears falling freely now. "It is. I have proof. Cole knew. He tried to find a way to tell us before he died. Everything you've been through, everything Jordan made you believe, it was all built on lies. You were stolen from us, Claire. But you're home now." Claire's knees weakened, and Victoria caught her, pulling her into a trembling embrace. For the first time, mother and daughter held each other not as strangers, not as enemies, but as family, bound by truth, pain, and unconditional love. As the night grew colder, Victoria whispered, "We've lost so much time, but I promise we'll make up for it. Cole wanted you to be loved, and I'm going to honor that every single day." Claire clung to her, sobbing. "I don't know how to feel," she said through her tears. "I'm angry, I'm happy, I'm scared. I thought I didn't have anyone left in this world." "You have me," Victoria whispered back. "You'll always have me." And under the pale moonlight, the ghosts of their past began to fade. What started as a day of shocking revelations ended as a night of healing, a new chapter born out of heartbreak and discovery. Cole's final words had bridged the gap between two lost souls. And though the scars of the past would take time to fade, one thing was certain: Victoria and Claire's bond, once severed by lies, was now unbreakable. It was more than a twist of fate, it was destiny fulfilled. The following days in Genoa City were unlike anything Victoria Newman had ever experienced. The world felt the same on the surface, the sun still rose, the business meetings still buzzed, the corporate machinery of Newman Enterprises still turned, yet everything had changed. Every heartbeat, every breath felt different. The knowledge that Claire was her daughter coursed through her like electricity, lighting up memories, rewriting the past in ways that left her both elated and wrecked. Victoria barely slept that night after revealing the truth to Claire. The image of Cole's handwriting, the sound of Claire's voice trembling as she whispered, "I'm your daughter," it haunted her. For hours, she sat in the dark, staring out her bedroom window, clutching the folded letter to her chest like a sacred relic. The house was silent, yet her mind was a storm. Every image of Claire's life replayed in her thoughts, the times she had seen that young woman struggle, cry, or push her away, and the weight of guilt pressed down on her chest. She had scolded her, distrusted her, even feared her. And now she knew that all along, she had been rejecting her own flesh and blood. By morning, Victoria knew she couldn't keep this revelation confined to her and Claire. There were others who needed to know, her family, her children, the Newmans who had weathered decades of secrets and betrayals but still managed to stand strong together. She needed to face them, even if it meant reopening old wounds. When she arrived at Newman Ranch later that morning, Nikki was sitting by the fireplace, sipping her tea and reading emails on her tablet. The soft rustle of Victoria's footsteps made her look up, and instantly, she knew something was wrong. "Sweetheart, what's happened?" she asked, setting the tablet aside. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Victoria hesitated, her throat tightening. "It's about Cole," she said quietly. Nikki's eyes softened with sympathy. "You got something from his estate, didn't you?" Victoria nodded. "A letter. A will. And, Mom, it changes everything." Her hands trembled as she handed the papers to Nikki, who adjusted her reading glasses and began to read. As she reached the part revealing Claire's identity, her hand froze midair. The color drained from her face. "My God," she whispered. "Claire, that young woman who's been through so much, she's your daughter?" Victoria nodded through her tears. "Cole found out before he died. He confirmed it. There's DNA proof, and the story of how she was taken. It wasn't an accident, Mom. Someone stole her from us." Nikki's eyes filled with tears. "All these years, all the pain you carried, thinking you'd lost your child forever, and she was right there, in front of you." "I can't believe it either," Victoria said softly. "I feel like I'm living in two realities at once. One where my child is gone forever, and another where she's been alive and suffering without me all this time." Nikki rose and wrapped her arms around her daughter. "You've been given a miracle, sweetheart. A painful one, but a miracle nonetheless. You and Claire deserve a chance to heal, together." But as they embraced, Victor entered the room, his commanding presence impossible to ignore. He glanced between the two women, sensing the heaviness in the air. "What's going on?" he asked firmly. Nikki turned toward him, her voice trembling. "Victor. Claire Grace is Victoria's daughter. Cole's daughter." Victor froze, his jaw tightening. "I already suspected it," he admitted after a moment, surprising them both. The resemblance, the instincts, there was something in her spirit. "She has that same Newman determination." Victoria blinked in shock. "You knew?" "I didn't know," Victor clarified, his tone deep and careful. "But I felt it. That's why I didn't push her away after the Jordan ordeal. I saw something in her eyes, something familiar. I thought maybe I was imagining it. But it seems my instincts were right." For a long time, no one spoke. Then Victor, with a rare glimmer of softness, reached out and put a hand on Victoria's shoulder. "You have to bring her home, my dear. Whatever's happened in the past, whatever mistakes were made, that girl belongs with her family now. She's a Newman. She's a Howard. And she deserves to know she's loved." Victoria nodded, though her heart was still aching with the gravity of it all. "I will. I told her last night, but I don't think it's sunk in yet. She's overwhelmed. She's angry. And I don't blame her. Her entire life has been built on lies." Victor sighed deeply. "Then it's up to you to rebuild it. For both of you." Meanwhile, over at the Abbott mansion, Claire was reeling. The revelation had left her paralyzed with emotion. She sat alone in the conservatory, staring out at the frosted garden, unable to make sense of what had happened. The words echoed in her mind, "You're my daughter." Her entire life flashed before her eyes, the twisted upbringing under Jordan's manipulation, the years of confusion, the warped sense of identity. She had been told she was unwanted, unloved, a tool for revenge. And now she was being told that she had a mother, a real mother, who had mourned her for decades. But how was she supposed to accept that? Her hands trembled as she picked up her phone, scrolling through old photos she had of Victoria. The two of them during the days when Victoria had cautiously tried to trust her again, after all the chaos, after the kidnapping, after the emotional confrontations. There had been moments of connection, glimmers of something deep she hadn't understood at the time. Now, every one of those moments made sense. The door opened quietly behind her, and Summer Newman stepped in. "Hey," she said softly. "I heard you've been keeping to yourself all morning. You okay?" Claire forced a small smile, but it quickly faltered. "Not really. I found out something huge. I don't even know how to process it." Summer tilted her head, concerned. "What happened?" Claire hesitated for a long time before blurting it out. "Victoria, she's my mother. Cole was my father." Summer's eyes widened. "Wait, what? Are you serious?" Claire nodded, tears filling her eyes. "There's proof. A letter from Cole, DNA confirmation, everything. I thought I was just some orphan Jordan took in to manipulate, but I'm actually their daughter. Victoria's and Cole's." Summer covered her mouth in shock. Oh my God, Claire, that's unbelievable. It's unbearable, Claire whispered. Everything I thought I knew about myself is gone. All the pain, all the anger I carried, it was based on lies. She didn't abandon me. She thought I was dead. And now she wants to start over, but I don't even know who I am anymore. Summer sat beside her, taking her hand gently. You're Claire. And yeah, this changes everything, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Victoria's a good woman. She'll fight for you. I think she's been fighting for you without even realizing it. Claire laughed weakly, a tear rolling down her cheek. I can see that now. But I keep thinking about all the things I did, the pain I caused her, the things Jordan made me do. How can she ever forgive me? She already has, Summer said quietly. You didn't see her face after you were taken to the hospital last time. She was terrified. That wasn't pity, Claire. That was a mother's fear. For the first time, Claire allowed herself to cry freely, not tears of guilt, but of release. The walls she had built around herself began to crack. Later that day, Victoria returned to Newman Towers and called Nick, Adam, and Nate to her office. They each arrived, curious and tense, unsure what could have caused such urgency. When she told them the truth, the room fell into stunned silence. Adam was the first to speak. So the girl who was manipulated by Jordan, the same Claire Grace who tried to make amends, she's your daughter? Victoria nodded. Yes. Cole's and mine. Nick shook his head slowly. Wow. That's unbelievable. But it makes sense now. The connection, the way she always seemed drawn to you. It was like something deep down inside her recognized you. Nate placed a comforting hand on Victoria's shoulder. You're going to need time to process this. Both of you will. But I've seen the way she looks at you, Victoria. There's love there. It's buried under pain, but it's real. Adam folded his arms, his expression softening slightly. For what it's worth, this could be a chance to heal something deeper than just your relationship with Claire. Maybe this family finally gets a break from